G'day. McLaren asks Oscar Piastri to hand back second place to Lando Norris following a slow pit stop, and arguments are raging online. Let's have a look. Also, distressed fans plucked from the track post-race by medical staff. But first, why did Oscar have to let Lando pass him on track?
Well, he didn't. He was asked by the team, as it was the team that caused Lando to emerge from the pits behind and not in front of Oscar. Lando didn't ask for it, and I guess Oscar could have said no, and if he had, I don't think Lando would have protested. It's meant that Oscar's now only 31 points in front of Lando and not 37.
But what if it was the last round of the year and it was for the title?
Do you think the team would have made the same request? If not, what then would be the cut-off point? That they'd stop asking for their drivers to swap positions when a team makes the mistake. Certainly they're copping plenty of flack about it on social media.
I would love to get Oscar's manager, Mark Webber's take on this.
It happened so quickly that Mark wouldn't have been advised about it. He would have been as surprised as the rest of us.
Effectively, what McLaren's done is manipulate the race result.
Imagine if you'd backed Max and Oscar for the Quinella. After that pit stop, you would have been on target for a payout. But a lap later, the team has decided those backing a Max Lando Quinella were going to collect.
Well, there are no rules that prohibit team orders changing race results.
It's regarded as part of motorsport. Manipulation is regarded as an external party influencing the results. So if someone was offered money to throw a race, that's something completely different, and there would be serious consequences. But if a team decides to gift one driver a result at the expense of another, that is fair game. But McLaren has form here. In Hungary last year, Lando was asked to slow to allow Oscar to pass as the team messed up the strategy, and that saw Lando benefit. Lando was slow to hand back that position in that instance, and yesterday Oscar's response was along the lines of, slow stops are a part of racing, but if you really want me to give it back, I will.
And give it back he did. Now, special thanks to Holofly for sponsoring this video and for ensuring I stay connected and contactable while I'm here in Monza for the Italian Grand Prix.
And whether you're travelling for work or pleasure, having fast, reliable internet is essential. And with a Holofly eSIM, I can rest assured knowing I've got just that.
And you can too.
Stay connected wherever your journey takes you in one or all of the 200 plus destinations with unlimited data or data covered by Holofly.
In particular, the Holofly Europe eSIM covers 40 countries.
So you can explore to your heart's content without needing to swap SIM cards.
Oh, and you can forget about roaming charges because with a Holofly eSIM, there are none.
Since arriving in Italy, I've been streaming F1 highlights, posting live updates, finding my way around the city, and even sharing my connection, thanks to Holofly's generous daily hotspot included with the Europe eSIM. Not to mention, setting up your eSIM is straightforward and hassle-free.
So, like me, you can hit the ground running.
And if I need help, Holofly's 24/7 multilingual support is always there.
If you're heading overseas, check out Holofly by clicking on the link in the description and use my code for a discount. Heading back to Monza, and certainly both drivers were playing down the incident at the end of the day.
Whether they'd been instructed to do so by the team is unclear, but it has been the big talking point among fans, with many booing Lando on the podium. Perhaps that would have been better directed at the team, as they made the call, not Lando. Lando didn't ask for that, but he did say post-race that F1 is a team game, and obviously both drivers are greatly respectful of that. Bear in mind there are 1,000-odd people behind these two, and when they receive a trophy on the podium, it's not theirs. They receive the trophy on behalf of the team, and then the team displays it in their trophy cabinet.
Of course, there have been many times when drivers haven't followed teams' requests.
Multi-21, Sebastian Vettel dudding Mark Webber, and even Daniel Ricciardo refusing to give Max a tow in a qualifying session once.
But what if Lando and Oscar were running first and second yesterday, not second and third? Would Oscar have been as willing to acquiesce?
I guess we will never know. Anyway, it was Max's day, a great win for him, and he'd certainly got a laugh out of the McLaren drivers swapping positions, but I did spot one of his biggest fans there, the lion, and here's a rare picture of that lion without his head on.
Let's talk now about the post-track invasion at Monza. It is one of the greatest spectacles in world sport.
I'm guessing there's probably 50,000 people on the track after the race, but things turned a little sour about an hour after, when fans waiting out the front of the Ferrari garage, hoping to catch a glimpse of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, were so tightly packed that some of them had to be rescued. Charles actually did come out and thrill many of them, and then Fred Vasseur popped out. But I can tell you, the temperature differential between what we were experiencing in pit lane and what the crowd were experiencing on the track would have been at least 10 degrees. The heat radiating off that crowd was absolutely phenomenal. Sometimes, and yesterday was one of those times, it can become dangerous.
Let's talk Franco Colapinto now, because in the press pen after the race,
he was sitting on the ground, having taken a break from some of his media commitments. He did recover quickly, but needed some water. I've seen him sitting on the ground before, going back to Austin last year.
Let's talk social media. My biggest post of the weekend was this one.
60,000+ likes, seen by 1.8 million people. But again, I had to delete about 60 nasty comments and blocked about 40 people. I guess 60 out of 1.8 million is a very small number. But Lando and Maggie certainly cop more than the rest.
It is a sad downside of social media.
Lewis Hamilton was wearing blue coming into and out of the track every day, as was his teammate Charles Leclerc. But I did note that at some point over the weekend, he said one of his dreams has always been to race in Ferrari red at Monza, and unfortunately he didn't. Well, he did actually in the car. He was in red race suits, but he wanted to be wearing red in and out of the track, and unfortunately he had to wear blue. But I'm not sure why Ferrari does different liveries at their home races. Certainly since 22, every year they've had a different coloured livery for the car and also on their race suits.
You know, I'm constantly amazed at the number of drivers who have to sprint for the national anthem.
The thing is, they get reminders over the PA every minute, and yet many were cutting it fine yesterday. Max and Charles having a foot race here, and have a look at Charles's photographer behind him trying to keep up, shooting with one camera while carrying another two on his shoulders. And here's Yuki, completely off the ground.
Now, when the drivers head out to the grid for the national anthem, they have a particular spot to stand in. Those spots were typically denoted by these cards that were left on the stage. Well, that's changed now. They now have the numbers of the drivers stuck on the back of that small stage, which looks a lot nicer. Let's talk about Andre Stella's neatness.
I was walking past the McLaren motorhome on Saturday and noticed that there was a press conference going on, and Andre Stella was addressing the media, and I'd heard that he arranges his phones, well, not his phones, the phones of the journalists rather neatly on the table. Normally they just chuck them on the table in haphazard manner and they record the audio, but Andrea actually takes the time to neatly arrange them in front of him. Such is his attention to detail. Isaac Hadjar received his third Dutch GP trophy in Monza. You'll remember he snapped his original trophy in half at the team celebration post-race. Well, Royal Delft Blue produced another, flew to Monza with it, and presented it to him last Friday at the back of the garage. He laughed that he now has 3 separate trophies, counting the broken one as 2, and says he'll keep those 2 while the team takes the intact new one.
At every race, Red Bull garage mechanic Ollie draws something interesting on the ground just near the pit box. This was his effort this race, and this is what he drew last race in Zandvoort. Let's go back to this post on Thursday of Valtteri Bottas.
A couple of you claiming it was clickbait. Well, I have to admit, Valtteri put me up to it. Prior to him jumping in this car to do some laps around the track, we chatted. Why don't you question whether or not George is ill, and perhaps I'm standing in for him? So I did that. Anyway, it was a well-received post by most of you.
While Oliver Behrman was signing some autographs as he arrived at the paddock, I noticed his brother, Thomas, was out with Oliver's girlfriend, Alicia, having some fun with a bottle.
And then he tried it on his dad, David's head. And David actually says that Thomas is a faster racer than Ollie at the same stage of their career.
Could we see 2 brothers racing in F1 down the track? Now, coming up shortly, I'll get to what some of the drivers drove to the Monza Grand Prix, or the Italian Grand Prix in Monza. But first up, this fella here is Adam McDade.
He's one of Mercedes' press officers, and I caught him coming in with this big box of, well, at the time I didn't know what was in there, struggling big time.
I did have a chat with Adam, and he said, it was so hard, it was 150 kilos. It wasn't 150 kilos, it was 200 of these little power adapters. They don't weigh a kilo each, I promise you. But I do thank him for one. Well, he actually gave me 2, and they've got their Mercedes logo on there. Let's start it off with Fernando Alonso's car, one of the mightiest vehicles we've ever seen at an F1 track. This is an Aston Martin Valhalla. It was waiting in the car park for him post-race. He drove it, I think on the Thursday or Friday, into the track. This is Aston Martin's first ever mid-engine supercar. It has 1,064 horsepower, and price-wise, it's in the order of US $1 million. And if you happen to be lining the route on the exit of the track on the weekend after the race, you might have seen Fernando heading out of the track in this beast.
Moving on to other cars, pura sangues for both of the Ferrari drivers. Carlos had his pura sangue as well. He drove that from Monaco, as did a number of other drivers. Kimi Antonelli in this beautiful Mercedes. He arrived with his sister on Sunday. Pierre Gasly in this Alpine A290. Nifty little car. Electric. Red Bull drivers were once again in Fords, one driving a Capri, which is the exact same car I had this race. Has an amazing turning circle on it. And of course the V-Carb drivers in Honda Civic Type Rs. The rest were pretty standard. Yesterday I took this picture of Fernando as he passed by, and I had a look at it closely and realised these sunglasses are unlike anything I've ever seen. They're made by sponsor Oakley. I actually asked Fernando about them and he took them off and showed me, but it does have Aston Martin branding on them, and I wonder just how long that would last. Would they stand up to the rigours of motorsport? I guess we'll find out at some point.
Now, I met this 11-year-old karter, Liam Nashawati, over the weekend. He came dressed to the race in his race suit and got all the drivers to sign it. But get this, he's managed by George Russell's manager. At the age of 11, he's already won some national titles, and you never know, in 6 or 7 years, we might be seeing him racing in Formula One. Now, good people, I have to leave you because I've got a flight back to Australia, but still plenty of F1 content coming up over the coming 8 or so days before we head off again. And if you'd like to have a look at a whole lot of extra content on social media, this is where you need to go. Thanks for watching.
And stay passionate.
Well, there